All right, so now we're ready to move on to the back of the pants. We're going to be working on the back pant leg now. And again, we're just going to be doing one leg, so you don't have to do both of them. And I still have it wrong side out. Now at this point, you're probably thinking, hey, this is a piece of cake. I've already done the front, so it's going to be the same thing for the back. But there is one issue that we're going to have to face. So we're just going to get a little bit closer to the leg portion and show you exactly what you need to do to prep. Like we did with the front leg, of course you want to flatten out and smooth out your leg to pin it to your paper as much as possible. But the issue we have is that the back leg is usually bigger than the front leg. So even though I have a raw edge over on this side, if I flatten it out, you won't see a raw edge over here because of course what's happening is the back leg is folding over and there's my raw edge right there. So I'm getting a smaller back leg than what it really is. Now if I pull this raw edge and this raw edge together, there's no way I'm going to be able to flatten it out and not have this big wrinkle in the way. It's just always going to be like that. And again, we're not getting an accurate picture of what it actually looks like. So we're actually going to do it in two parts. To prep the first part, I'm just going to let it lie naturally. I'm going to flatten it out. Go ahead and let it roll over to the front. That's fine. Just let it do what it wants to do. I'm going to grab some straight pins here. Along this top folded edge, I'm going to go ahead, put some straight pins just to hold everything into place. So I'm going through front and back layer to hold it into place because we're eventually going to account for this and we want to make sure that when we do, it's the same thing for when we do this first part here. So I'm going to do this for the whole length of this outer leg curve part. Now that this side of the leg has all been pinned, I'm going to go ahead, flatten out the pant leg as best I can, and go ahead, use your straight pins and pin everything into place all around this whole side of the pants. Once everything is pinned into place, you're going to grab your tracing wheel and you're going to go ahead and do an outline of the inner leg area, the bottom hemline, and then our temporary outer leg seam as it is. And you're just going to the top of the back yoke. We're not including the waistband because we're going to do the waistband as a separate pattern. So I'm just going to go up here to the top of what is the pants and include the yoke and then stop when I get to the bottom of the waistband. For now, I could put away the tracing wheel and I'm just going to use a regular straight pin. Just like we did before, you're going to outline the crotch curve area. Now with my crotch curve, I have a set of stitches right here which marks the seam line and then the raw edge. This raw edge is including seam allowance, so I'm going to go ahead and do it along the raw edge. That way I don't have to worry about adding seam allowance to this one area. So I'm just going along the raw edge. I'm going to push through. So it goes through the fabric and also goes through my paper. Go a little ways down, push through again to repeat the process and keep doing it until I get to this point down here, which is the crotch curve goes into the inner leg seam. So I'm just going to go along this curve. Then I'm going to do the same thing with this waistband area. So I'm going to follow the seam line right at the bottom of the waistline, doing the same thing, starting at the raw edge of the crotch curve. I'm going to stick my pin through till it goes through the paper and go all the way along the thing until I get to the side seam here. Then I'm going to do the same thing with the yoke. So this bottom folded part is the seam line of the yoke. Now if your jeans don't have a back yoke, you can just skip this part, but all my jeans have it, so I assume it's probably a fairly popular detail. So I'm starting here, pushing my pin through, following along until I get to the side seam. And then the only other thing I'm going to mark is you can see an outline here of my pocket. This is a back pocket that my jeans have. I'm just going to mark the outside edge. You can see 2 rows of stitches. I'm doing the outside row though. So I'm going to push my pin down to mark the outside. I have a corner right here. I'm going to do the same thing for this corner. I have the end point. I'm going to go through the end point. And then I'm going to do the same thing at this corner and then at the very end again. So what this is doing is it's marking the placement of our pocket to the back leg and also to help us in the future when we want to create our pattern piece for the back pocket. Don't forget you can use the same straight pin technique in order to mark placement such as the belt loop placement. I have these horizontal stitches right here that marks one belt loop, and then I have another one right here, which is kind of hard to see. So I'm going to put my straight pins through there to mark it on my paper. Once everything is marked, go ahead and remove your straight pins so you can take your pants off the paper. These pins that are horizontally going through both layers of the pants, these are going to stay. You're just removing the straight pins that are holding your pants to the paper. Here's what my outline on my paper looks so far. So I just used my marks as a guideline to create my outline, and the main outline is in the black here. The yoke, the bottom of the yoke is marked in red, and then of course we have the pocket placement. Now you'll notice this line here I did in a dash line, and I still kept it in my pencil mark because this is just the temporary line. Now what we have to do next is we have to add the fabric of the back that was folded over to the front, which we couldn't account for. So we're going to take care of this issue now. Flip your pants over to look at the front, and on the side where we had done all that pinning, you're going to line it up with the temporary dash line. So I'm going to make sure that this bottom line lines up with the bottom, and just that this edge matches that line perfectly. Then I can start pinning it into place just to hold everything down. And once it's all pinned, then we go ahead and make our marks right on that raw edge. And so that's going to add it to our original back pattern. So here was my original dash line, and now you can see my new line. So this was all the fabric that ended up being folded over to the right side of the pants. So I no longer need this dash line, so I can go ahead and erase it because this is our new line. Also, I made sure that I extended this yoke line to go to the new line, and the same thing for the waistline. And I started making notes to myself so I know where I need to add seam allowance or where something is going to be the placement of something else. Next, you're going to place tracing paper over the whole piece. And we're doing it for the back, but you also need to do it for the front as well, because we're going to compare the front and back for the seams that go together, which is this curve here, this inner leg seam area here. And why we're doing that is since they're going to be sewn together, we want them to match, and we're changing it now before we break out the individual pieces, because we can go ahead and change everything before we do that, and it'll just save us time in the long run and make sure that everything's going to be consistent. So you do your outline. It's going to be side seam, waistline, crotch curve, inner leg seam, and then the hemline down at the bottom. So again, not worrying about the details, jeans back. And then I'm also going to do the same thing with the front, and I already have it copied underneath. So I'm not doing all these details. I'm sticking with my black lines, the same area that I did with the back. This part is called truing your pattern. So you're taking both the front and the back, you're putting them on top of each other. Now the front and back are not going to fit together perfectly, obviously, because the back is larger than the front. But there are some areas that you can match up. This is the inner leg seam. The brown is the front, the blue is the back. So I'm going to put them on top of each other, matching the top. You can see here, this is not matching. That's fine because they're not supposed to be sewn together. And I'm just checking to see how well does it line up. Now obviously it's not a pattern because we copied it from an actual pair of pants, so it's probably not going to be perfect. But you can see it looks like it matches pretty well, but then there's this issue right here. It's actually not that extreme. But what I could do, since I have the brown on top, maybe I'll just use my pencil and I'll just blend this together on the brown. So then I'll take it back to my original front copy that I made and just move this line a little bit so then it matches a little bit better. I wouldn't get too stressed out if you're trying to match up your seams, like the inner leg seam here, and you're able to match up the top part, but you can see the bottom part kind of veers off. It's because we're dealing with paper here, and it's not as flexible as fabric, especially when you're dealing with curves like I'm dealing with right here. So I just take it one part at a time. I take this part, I keep my pin right here. I can remove this pin. Because these are straight lines, they're probably going to line up pretty well. So now I'm just going to move this over So now I'm making sure that the pant legs are the same length. And you can see it's just a little bit off. So either I can bring the brown one in or I could bring the blue one out, but I'll probably bring the brown one in just so it looks a little bit straighter. Next, what I'm going to match up is going to be the side seam. So we're going to figure out, is it the same length, making sure that one pant leg isn't longer than the other, and also the hip curve, and this is a very important section. So you can see my brown one, which is the front, is a little bit flatter than the back, which is the blue line. So this is a little bit more extreme than the other examples that we showed you. And in cases like this, you could be a little bit, it's a little bit harder to tell if you actually want to take your brown one up to the blue one or your blue one down to the brown one. So what I do in cases such as this, I'm just going to compromise. I'm just going to draw a line right down the middle. So at first I'm going to do it on my front pant leg copy. And we're going to go right down the middle, and I'm just going to try to eyeball this into a nice smooth curve, or you can measure it if you want. I just like doing things by hand. Then I'm going to pin or tape it together. I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to follow along this exact same line, but do it on the blue copy. So then once we have these done, we're going to go ahead and transfer them to our originals that we created, not these copies. So then we can make sure that when we're actually sewing it together, everything's going to match up. And also another good idea while you're doing this is adding notches. So notches are important. It's like a puzzle for fitting pieces together that they're going to fit in the same spot. So I have double notches here. I can go ahead and put double notches on my blue line. On the other side, I can just put in a mark with one of my straight pins so I can mark it. And that way I know that this notch is going to match up with the notch on the blue copy once I cut it out of my fabric. Lay your tracing paper back onto your original and line everything up. Whatever changes you have, I marked here with my red marker. I'm going to take my tracing wheel and I'm going to go right over on that line. And then I went ahead and made the change to the original using the marks made from the tracing wheel. So once all your corrections are made, we can get down to actually breaking down to the individual compartments of each pattern. New tutorials are released weekly, so please subscribe to be notified of the next release. Make sure to check out our other videos and visit ProfessorPincushion.com to view our complete library with well over 200 sewing video tutorials, including our exclusive premium content. Our premium membership is only $5 a month for unlimited access and only available at ProfessorPincushion.com. Also, don't forget to download our mobile app for videos on the go. Thanks for watching.